In today's video, I'm going to be sharing some tips to help you if you are feeling overwhelmed, paralyzed by your to-do list, or you're having trouble sticking with your routines. So stay tuned. Hey guys, my name is Nikki and I want to welcome you here to Carry Grace. My hope is that today's video is going to bring you some encouragement, especially for those of you that are feeling overwhelmed, paralyzed by your to-do list, or simply having trouble sticking to your routines. So a couple of weeks ago, I asked you guys in my private Facebook group if there was any topic that I could talk about that would be helpful to you. And these are the topics that you guys suggested. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. I'm not going to go super in depth with all of these. I don't want this video to be super long, but I am going to give you a few tips that will hopefully help you if you find yourself in any of these categories. So let's talk about the first one, feeling overwhelmed. I have found that most of the time if I'm feeling overwhelmed, it is because I have a lot going on and I'm trying to store all of it in my brain. So I have found that most of the time, if I will sit down with a piece of paper and just write down all of the things that I'm trying to remember down on paper, it helps so much. These can be home tasks, these can be things that you need to schedule, these can be things that you need to prepare for or get ready for your kids. This can be like back to school things, it could be just life things, it could be work things, it could be all the things, but all these things that we store up here in our brain, sometimes it can just become too much. And when you get it down on paper, what you have done is you have given yourself a safe place to have these things so that you can go back and remember them. You're not trying to remember it all at one time. One thing that I like to do once I have kind of gotten everything out of my head and onto a piece of paper, I like to try to organize all of those thoughts. So if there's a list of tasks, I like to kind of separate those. If there are things for work, I kind of like to separate those. You can do this by creating a new list. You can highlight the things in different colors so that you can color coordinate. There's so many different ways that you can organize your list, but you may find that organizing your thoughts once you have them down on paper really helps to alleviate some of that overwhelm. The next thing that I like to do is I like to take a few minutes and just deal with some of those things that I can deal with. So maybe you have written down some dates that you don't need to forget. Go ahead and just put those in your phone or jot them down in your planner, especially if you have some kind of deadline or something like that. Go ahead and get it somewhere in a nice permanent place so that you don't forget it. And then you can just start scheduling these other things as you have pockets of time. Just keep that piece of paper, keep that note that you put in your list. That way you can reference it anytime that you need to. Let's talk about some ways that you can help from becoming paralyzed by all of your lists. I have found that if I'm feeling paralyzed by a list, it is because I am leaning into perfection instead of into progress. So what happens when you are leaning into perfection is you start to procrastinate. And that is when we get those feelings of being paralyzed, like we can't do anything. So I want to encourage you to really focus on progress, not perfection. So what does that look like in practical terms? Let's say that you have a weekly cleaning list that you would like to get to. If you are leaning into perfection, you are probably looking for a chunk of time in your week when you can get to all of those tasks at one time and you can do them in the order that you have them written down. That is perfection. And I'm here to tell you that it will paralyze you. You have to be okay with just getting things done as you can. You guys, life is not perfect. Our days are not perfect. Our schedules are not perfect. Things come up, things change, and we have to be flexible. And I am saying this so adamantly because it is something that I have had to learn. I have been that person that has tried to do everything exactly the way I have it written down, at exactly, the time of day, particular day of the week, all of those things. And that's just not how life works. It's great to have a plan. It's great to have an idea of how you would like for things to flow, but it just doesn't always work. And that's when we have to lean into progress. So one thing I want to encourage you to do if you're feeling paralyzed by all of your to-do lists is to, instead of looking for perfection, I want you to look for pockets of time. So at some point during the day, you are going to have 5 minutes or maybe 10 or 15 minutes that you can get something accomplished. I want you to take those 5, 10, 15 minutes and pick one thing off that cleaning list that you can get done. And then I want you to be super happy with yourself that you were able to get that one thing done. The next day, maybe you can get half of a task done. Maybe you can't even complete the whole task. Maybe the task was to dust your whole house. Maybe you only had 3 minutes to dust one room. That's okay. I want you guys to look for the pockets of time so that you can start making progress. The last thing I want to touch on is what to do when you are having trouble sticking to your routines. Now again, this is one of those areas where I have been there, so I totally understand your feelings. The biggest thing that I have learned over the last several years, but definitely this year, is that your routines have to be built. Having intentions for a routine are not the same as building a routine. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. When you are building a house, you set intentions for building your house. You have plans drawn. You line up contractors. You do all of these different things. And it usually takes 9 months to a year to build a house. So building a house does not happen overnight. You have to start at the beginning and you have to go through one step at a time. And as you get to the end of all of the steps, then you have a beautiful home to move into. Routines are the same way. Most of us feel like we have a routine because we have set intentions for a routine, but we haven't actually built the routine. So what does that mean? That means that you have found a routine, or maybe you have sat down and you created a routine that you would like to follow. You just decided to jump in and say that these are all of the things you're going to do every day, week, month, whatever it is. And then you jump in, and then a few weeks later, you find that your routine has fallen by the wayside and you are not getting anything accomplished. That is because you set intentions, you did not build the routine. So how do you build a routine? You're going to sit down and you're going to make a plan. So you're going to set your intentions for your routines. You are going to write down what you want those routines to look like. But then you are going to take your routines one step at a time. You are going to decide where to start, whether it is a morning routine, an evening routine. You could start with a weekly routine. You could start with a monthly routine. You can start wherever you want. I always suggest starting with a morning or an evening routine because I feel like those are the foundation of any routine. Those particular routines, I feel like they're the foundation to creating routines in your home, but you have to build them one step at a time. So if you've got a morning routine that has 5 or 6 things that you would like to do, you need to break that down and just start with doing 1 or 2 things at a time. And when you have gotten to a place where you are doing those 1 or 2 things routinely, you're not having to look at a list, you're just doing them automatically, then you can add the next item to that routine. Okay? Like I said, we're going to build our routine. We're not going to just set intentions for a routine. Some of you may be in a place where you can start with just your full morning routine, and then you can eventually add your evening routine. Then you can add a weekly routine and then a monthly routine. But if you find that you are struggling to get through the routine, the whole routine, break it down into smaller chunks. I'm telling you, it may feel like it is taking you a really long time, but think about that house. When you build a house, it takes time. It feels like you're never going to get to move into that beautiful new home. But you don't want to move into a home where they skipped steps. And in the same way, we don't want our routines to suffer. When you start small and you start one step at a time and add things a little at a time, then those routines truly become a routine. The goal of a routine is to get to where you are doing those steps, those tasks, in the same order every day without having to think about it. You will know when your routine has been successfully built when you get to where you can just do those things automatically. All right, guys, I know this video was kind of short and sweet, but I really wanted to touch on these topics because they are some things that you guys asked for. I hope this video was helpful. If there's anything specific that you would like for me to cover here on my channel, please leave a comment down below and I will do my best to create some content that will be helpful to you. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing down below, and I will see you guys soon.